Hello there. The pro-Palestine marchers now think they own the streets of London. The Met Police must grip this now, or further violence can only follow. It had to happen eventually. The Met Police softly approach to the antics of Sadiq Khan's and the Labour Party's preferred demographic has taken its first real bite as it takes control of London's thoroughfares. Out of control pro-Hamas, posing as pro-Palestine supporters, faced off with the Met after their hurriedly called ad hoc protest in response to the Israeli activity in Rafah was meant to end. And the result was one police officer being seriously injured to the face by a thrown bottle, plus 2 other injured officers and 40 or so arrests. All because a group of 500 or so of the 8,000 to 10,000 pro-Hamas protesters in London broke away from the main group and took it upon themselves to blame the UK and its police force for what was happening in Rafah in the Gaza Strip. And the event they were all so riled up about is the death of 45 people in Rafah after an Israeli bombing strike. But things are not all that they appear on the surface. The Israeli PM came straight out and called the event a tragic mishap, but it transpires that there may well have been a Hamas weapons cache right next to those unfortunate people. So when the Israelis used the smallest munitions they could to target 2 known Hamas terrorists in the area, the weapons cache went up, killing many more people. Now every time the Hamas so-called authorities emit their propaganda, it is taken as written on tablets of stone as the truth by the many useful idiots in the West that support them. But here is a cool and measured statement from Israeli government spokesman David Metzer talking to Camilla Tominey on GB News.
So thank you for having me join you, Camilla. We just released the preliminary results of the army investigation just this afternoon. And what the investigation found was that we used 2 of the smallest munitions, 17 kilograms each, to get these 2 terrorists very much wanted, very much chased by us because they're the heads of Hamas in Judea and Samaria, responsible for many Israeli deaths, but also responsible for British deaths as well. You remember the case of Lucy D, a Brit, and her 2 daughters who were killed just about a year ago. So these 2 individuals who we targeted and we reached. Now, the preliminary results of the investigation have told us that these 2 munitions that were fired very carefully, very precisely, with precise intelligence, those themselves didn't cause the fire which killed people. It was the munitions which were next to those terrorists in that Hamas compound which killed so many people. Now, of course, any civilian death and all these civilian deaths, the Prime Minister is absolutely correct. It is an absolute tragedy. But let's be clear, all of the blame for civilian tragedies, especially in this case, must land at the feet of Hamas. They are responsible for this war. They started this war. They perpetuate this war. They don't want to give our hostages back, 125 people, and they continue to wage war upon us. So the blame for these civilian deaths lies firmly at the feet of Hamas.
Now, Hamas, its supporters, and the useful Western idiots that support them will never, ever believe this, of course. And don't be fooled by what those pro-Palestine types claim, because merely parroting from the river to the sea gives their beliefs and intentions away. Unless they are monumentally stupid, of course. So those protesters who yesterday threw themselves into an assault on the police were doing so in support of the Hamas regime that had placed their top terrorists and an arms dump where civilians were based, so causing the death of more, presumably innocent people. Now, Israeli forces are reportedly deep inside Rafah right now, inflicting severe damage on the remaining Hamas terrorists. So expect the shrill screeches of their supporters across the Western world in all those big cities and universities to intensify as they see their dreams of destroying Israel ebb away ever faster. And one of those Western supporters, the Irish PM Simon Harris, should be feeling a bit red-faced right now. If you remember, his government, along with those of Norway and Spain, is giving recognition to an undefined state of Palestine. But Harris also sent the following tweet out saying, "I have today spoken to the President of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, following Ireland's recognition of the State of Palestine. I told the President that I, on behalf of the people of Ireland, was recognising Palestine to keep the hopes of a two-state peace solution alive." So Harris is supporting the President of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas. Harris probably sees Abbas as some sort of moderate. Just when I'm reading that Abbas's loyalists have been working alongside Hamas and even participated in the October the 7th atrocities. Even worse, the Gatestone Institute paints a picture of President Hamas's Fatah faction of the Palestine Authority seeming intent on proving they can carry out more atrocities against Israel than Hamas can. The war in the Gaza Strip, which erupted after Hamas massacred 1,200 Israelis on October the 7th, 2023, is not limited to Israel and the Iran-backed Hamas terrorist group, reports the Institute. Other terrorist groups in the Gaza Strip are involved in the fighting against Israeli troops. Those groups also participated in the October the 7th massacre. They include Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, the armed wing of the Fatah faction, headed by none other than the President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. But this isn't breaking news. The Gatestone Institute says that earlier this month, Abu Mohammed, the official spokesman for Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, revealed that the group's fighters participated in the Hamas-led October the 7th attack on Israeli communities near the border with the Gaza Strip. So the so-called moderates, led by Mahmoud Abbas, are right up to their necks in October the 7th. Wonder what the Irish PM Simon Harris has to say about that particular revelation. And the Gatestone Institute also says that so long as Abbas and Fatah are producing and arming terrorists, all plans by the Biden administration to revitalise the Palestinian Authority are worthless. I would add the likes of Norway, Spain and Ireland to that list as well. The Institute goes on. If the Biden administration is sincere about reforming the Palestinian Authority, it ought to begin by insisting that Abbas disband his own terrorist organisation and stop endorsing terrorists and compensating them with monthly payments. Until then, handing over the Gaza Strip to Abbas and his Fatah terrorists would be a monstrous mistake. Replacing one set of rats with another set of rats springs to mind. And the Simon Harris administration in Ireland wants to engage with them. Both Fatah and Hamas continue to engage in terrorism and are outspokenly proud of their attacks on Jews, says the Gatestone Institute. Fatah and Hamas seem, in fact, to be competing to prove to the Palestinians who is carrying out more terrorist attacks against Israel. And all the while, so many in the West seem to want to rob Israel of the ability to defend itself. And they will be well aware of what would ensue were that to be allowed to happen. And then none of us would be safe.